let's go back to Mike. You spent so much of your career with him. You guys didn't have a great relationship. You said it was not as bad as people thought.
Right.
I look at Martin and Lewis, and I've read books about them, and Abbott and Costello. Teams don't usually get along off the air, and it usually ends up breaking up. What was it about you and Mike that didn't work?
There were a lot of moments where the two of us were very close off the air. I remember I used to stay at his house a lot for baseball playoff games.
Really?
Oh, yeah. So I think it's a little overrated where, in fact, they must have hated each other. We had our major issues with the George Young Parcells thing was a major problem, which bothered me more than it probably should have. The first big fight is Mike went on vacation. He goes to Florida.
Right.
This is in 90 or 91. And
so you guys were working together 2-3 years.
Yeah, about a year.
Right.
I forget, it may have been 92. And I forget how it all manifested itself, but they were playing the Mike and the Mad Dog jingles. So I told Steve Cohen, running the board, get those jingles off. Mike's not here today. Mike found out about it, caused a major problem.
Right.
My fault. Blown out of proportion. Next thing you know, we're not talking for 3 or 4 months. So
Except on the air.
Well, yeah, right. I know a lot of times I did shows with Mike when we were arguing where we didn't talk. We did a show. We almost doing 2 separate shows. Mike would talk, I would talk, and we were so good at it, we fooled everybody for crying out loud.
Wow.
No, I haven't spoken to Mike in a while. But when we do see each other and talk, there is a kinship that 19 years has created. Got to keep that in mind.
Well, Mike's backstage. Mike, come on out.
Funny. I like that one right there.
June of 2008, you do your last show together. And on August 15th, you phoned Mike to say goodbye. And you said earlier, that got emotional.
Yeah, that was on the air, right?
Right.
Yeah.
Did that surprise you?
Yeah, I was surprised. And I know FAN didn't want Mike to put me on that day. You know how it goes. You leave a radio station.
Right, because they don't know what you're going to say.
No, not only that, they disappear. They cut you off from the history. But Mike put me on that day at 1:20. That was emotional.
Mike and the Mad Dog, WFAN.
Good afternoon, everybody. How are you today? The Mike and the Mad Dog radio program.
And for 19 years, a week short of 19 years, that is how we welcome New York to this program. Every day, or most days, sometimes not in the summer, sometimes a rare day here or there. But that was the sound that beckoned to everybody that started the Mike and the Mad Dog program. As you know, last night you learned that the Mike and the Mad Dog program will be no more. Over 19 years, we've experienced a lot here. Not only our fights that were very public, and that is the part that seems to get accentuated, but remember, 5 or 6 nasty squabbles in 19 years is not that many. Anything else I do from here, I'm 54 years old. I've just agreed to stay here for 5 more years. And I'm going to, after a quick vacation, put together a new program that'll have some new elements. I said I'd never have another partner, and I won't. That's not the idea. The idea is for me to have some folks along who can, offer some opinions, have some fun, offer some different perspectives and some personality, and I'm looking forward to it. We have not picked anybody. We have not even remotely begun that process. We have not even talked to anybody. We're in no rush. We'll put together a name, we'll put together some jingles, and we'll put together some people to join us on the program as we go along.
After that wonderful 15 minutes that you did, which I don't know what to add to it, I'm also staying for 5 more years.
Don't ruin it now. They got too many good stories out of it.
Oh, my, they did. They got a lot of stories. Listen, I think the 2 things that I need to address is that there's this lingering thought that I'm leaving because of you and I not getting along. And that is not the reason. I know you know that. I don't know how to handle what you just said there, because you did a wonderful job. I feel basically the same way you do. And this is a very, very tough call. This was not a decision that was made because, you know what, I don't like FAN. FAN's not treating me well. Mike and me are fighting. That's not it. I just felt at this point in time, right now, it was time to try a little something different. You will. I think it will help the both of us in a lot of ways. There was many a year that you and I were on. We did a wonderful show, and I think that people who thought the show had reached its peak, I don't even believe that. I think you and I did a good job in the spring despite our problems. I think that you and I, with the big moment, were still as good as anybody. People don't realize how long 5.5 hours is. I know Mike. He knows me better than Mike knows Roe, and better than I know Jeannie. I mean, the bottom line. Mike knew me before he knew Roe. Before he had 3 kids, I knew Mike before I had 4 kids and knew my wife. So, it wasn't an easy call. I'm going to miss that show.
I give Mike all the credit in the world for that. He put me on. How can you not put the kid on? He was here for 19 years. So he put me on, and that was an emotional thing. That was a rough day.
As we say goodbye to them, to the Yes, after 12 years, we say thanks, and we wish them well in all their endeavors. You know that? We wish them well in all their future endeavors. We thank them, of course, for 12 years, everything they did for us. For the folks back on the Fan, and for everybody listening, we will be on the Fan Monday. We will not be on TV Monday. I will then... Once Yes is gone, we will keep you abreast of what we're doing. From the studios of WFAN in New York and simulcast across the country via Fox Sports 1 and later on Fox Sports 2. This is Mike Francesa on the Fan, and this Monday, March 24th, for those of you who have missed us across the country and locally, if your thing is to watch the simulcast, we say it's nice to see you, and we're glad to be back. We've been off television since... February the 2nd, as we make the move from Yes Now to Fox Sports 1 and Fox Sports 2. We'll go through all the stuff today. We will be on Fox Sports 1 every day from 1 until 4 o'clock with the program. Obviously, we're on the Fan, WFAN 101.9 and 66 FM and AM in New York, as always, so you can always get us there. And every other place now that we are streaming and everything else in this world of multi-level and multi-platform performances. So that's the deal. So it's a big day for us. We are glad to be back, and we're looking forward to our relationship with Fox. We figure it'd take them at least 2 or 3 weeks to hate us, but you know, by then we'll have ticked off the whole company. But I mean, it usually takes that long. Well, you know, it'll work. It'll work well. We'll be fine. Hey, we lasted 12 years with the other guys, and you know, listen, they used to cringe. So I mean, we still lasted 12 years. So I think if we can get close to that, I don't think I'll be here another 12 years. So I don't think we'll last as long this time. Let me take a second here to tell you that. As of this Friday, we will be parting ways with Fox. They'll be with us the next couple of days, with us now, obviously. And we have reached an agreement to go our separate ways. I've reached an agreement with Fox to do that. My parent company, CBS, has reached an agreement with Fox to do that. So they'll be with us today. Obviously, the rest of the program tomorrow, and then Friday we'll mark our last program with Fox, and that will finish our simulcast relationship with Fox. So I know there has been a lot of discussion about it. I know there's been a lot of hand-wringing and a lot of different things through the time we've been with them. Let me just say this and put a ribbon on it and tell you what's going to happen from here. First, let me say that the blame is mine. I tried to do something that was a little different. I knew I was trying to put a square peg in a round hole when I did this. I knew what the show fit, and I knew what it didn't. But the Fox guys were eager. And I'm not going to say money wasn't an issue, because it was. I mean, their offer was the biggest. They were very eager to try it. They really wanted to. I had some trepidation, but I also saw the promise in it, and it never really worked out. So, again, the judgment was mine. I made the decision
not CBS to go. I did. CBS backed me on it. After that, where things went from there doesn't matter. Fox had good intentions. They paid us very well. It wasn't a good fit for them. It wasn't a good fit for us. And now we'll each go our separate ways. I wish them well. And again, sometimes things don't work out. That's what, basically, I've been very fortunate in my career that most things have worked out very well. This one didn't. I take all the blame in every way. It was my mistake. It was my judgment. And again, I tried to do something that I knew was going to be hard to do, and it really didn't work out. So we will end the relationship very amicably. For the immediate future after Friday, we will just do radio. We will begin negotiating with some folks, and we have had some preliminary discussions about carrying the show. There is interest in carrying the show. Obviously, the transition, first of all, we need time to make a deal, which won't happen overnight. We have not even, started that yet. That's going to take a little while. Then to get things turned around and get it, changed over, equipment-wise, technically, new crew, everything else. So it's going to take a while. Though we're going to be just on radio with no simulcast, I would think, for at least the next couple of months. At the if we don't make a deal, we won't with someone else. We'll be doing it on the radio, which we did for a very long time.
It's time to do some truth telling, everybody.
Yeah.
And it's something that Don and I have spoken about a lot. And people have said, well, you really shouldn't address it. But today it really came to a head because a couple of people called me up. And a lot of people are giving Mike Francesa grief today because he interviewed Alex Rodriguez and Alex lied to him. And I think that's ridiculous. You get the interview, you ask him the questions, which he did, and you could say you can't force a guy to tell you the truth, whatever the case may be. But another friend of mine said that somebody called in and said, that A-Rod interview probably cost you the simulcast on Yes. And Francesa said, no, that's not the truth. They wanted a show where they could control the editorial, and I wasn't going to give them that. Well, I don't know how to say this without just being blunt. Mike's a liar, okay? Nobody controls this show but me and Don. That's it. That's it. We have never, ever, ever been called by anybody at Yes and critiqued on what we said or how we said it and the truth of what we said, okay? You're trying to soften the blow that you got taken off a great network, and you're trying to say that we are a house organ. Sorry, you're wrong. You're wrong. They took you off of Yes for two reasons. Number one, over the years you ended up earning a lot of money, which you earned, and they were losing money on the show. Number two, okay, it's obviously the proper decision to have been made because our ratings are better than your ratings were when you were on Yes. And I'm going to give you a number three. Maybe they didn't want to broadcast a show where somebody was falling asleep on the air. That doesn't make great television. So don't you dare impugn my integrity and my reputation by telling people that the only reason that this show's on the air is because we are told what to say and what not to say. One more time, if you say that, I need proof, and you can't give me proof because you're lying.
You're dropping a lot of subtle hints, and you're worrying a lot of people.
Listen, you have nothing to worry about. Really. It's not and listen, I appreciate anyone would appreciate to hear that. I thank you for that. That's not the point of it.
You can't keep us in limbo like this.
I can't. But I have to right now for obvious reasons. I have to. There's issues here. There's issues.
And that's.
I would like to say more, but there's issues here right now.
Right, the listeners and the viewers can definitely pick up on that.
Yeah, there's issues. I'm going to be honest. There's issues. I'm not going to be. I'm going to be honest. Listen. You've never heard this out of me in 30 years. You've never once heard me ever. I never have been someone who's had I've never had a contract dispute, and this is not a contract dispute. There's no money issues here. There's no contract dispute in that way. It's just
It seems to be more day-to-day operations.
It's a meeting of the mind. Sometimes you and your team go in different directions. That's all, and it's just you know that, and you feel that, and you just know that. And we're in different places right now. We're on different roads, and the two may never meet again. So it's just like that kind of situation. So those things happen in life. I mean, I haven't had a lot of this. I've never had a dispute with the company in 30 years in any way. I've never had a contract dispute. I had never even dusted off my contracts for 20 years because I had never had any reason to. So I'm not going to tell you things are good. They're not. They're not good. I'm being honest, but I can't be more specific right now. I can't. I'm not going to paint you a picture that things are good because they're not good. They're not good. So, but I have nothing more to say about it right now.
Will we experience the 2015 NFL season with you?
Yes.
Okay.
I'd be surprised if I would say most likely. How's that?
So you just said that you've been rough on some callers, and about 6 weeks ago, I was fortunate enough to get hung up on by you. Okay. I was fortunate enough to get hung up on.
What'd you do?
Well, I called you 5 minutes left in the show, and I asked you if you have any regrets in your history. And really, what I was implying.
Oh yeah, that was a stupid question at that point.
I know. Well, Mike, I really don't want to see you go, and I'm just wondering. I know you thought it over, but I was just thinking, maybe you might be thinking a little bit about this move, man. And I was kind of
about leaving.
Yeah.
No, I don't regret. I don't regret the decision to leave. No, I think the timing's right. I felt that all along. I mean, I made that decision a long time ago. I mean, listen, I had a great relationship with the company my whole life. I never had any issues. I was the easiest employee. Hey, I'm an employee who's been here 30 years, never had a contract dispute, never had a run-in with the company in any way in 30 years. I mean, in any way. I was never reprimanded. I was never suspended. I was never had a problem, never had a nasty contract negotiation, never had a problem until a couple of years ago where, to be honest with you, they lied to me about something, more than one thing, and they did some really dumb things, and I got very fed up with the company. Plus, I didn't like the direction they were going in. Now, some of the people who did that aren't in the company anymore. So, I mean, it happens, but, and there's a new company coming in, but I just thought it was time, and I don't agree with some of the moves they've made. And I don't want to get into all of them because that's their business. They get to make the calls. I don't run the company. I mean, it's a publicly owned company. The new company comes into a publicly owned company. I mean, they make decisions. They have a management team. I might not agree with some of the things they do, but that's okay. I mean, that's what opinions are for. So I just think it's time. It's not that I couldn't live with it. I could, but it's just not what I think they should be doing. And I think the timing's right. That's all. And more that I'm getting closer to it, I think the timing was right. I really do. I'm going to miss it. Maybe I miss it a lot. Who knows? Maybe I can't live without it. If I can't live without it, you might see me on, some little 5,000 watt radio station in Fresno, California doing, 10 to 2. Who knows? You never know. I have to go somewhere and talk. Who knows? Hey, anything's possible. So we are dwindling down to the last couple of days here. Today, we head towards a football weekend. I want to thank the people. I went down to my old stomping ground, which was the CBS Broadcast Center, where I spent a lot of days through the years. Was there for a long time working on shows and stuff. And went in there and did the show, did Good Morning Football this morning with Schrager and all the guys there and the young lady. So they did a very nice job. It was fun. We had some laughs. They had all these questions for me and everything, but it was good. They did a good job. It's amazing when you sit in there with those guys, right? Nate Burleson's a player. You sit in there with them, and you know what you realize? You realize just they're so young. I mean, they really are. It's just amazed me sitting there saying, looking back, they're looking at me, they're thinking, man, he's been here forever. I was just thinking about how young they were. When I went in that building the first time, they weren't even born. First time I went in that building. So it's amazing how they're so they're having such a good time, and they're so into the NFL and stuff. It really did a good job. I wish them well with the show, but I had a lot of fun doing it. We had some fun, some laughs, and if I gave him a hard time. I was just teasing. So, no, it wasn't, but it was saying it anyway. So, what the heck. But it was good going down there. Coming to you live from the Paley Center, this is Mike Francesa on the Fan on this snowy, cold Thursday program. We thank everybody for coming out on what is a wintry December day. Second to last show. Tomorrow back in the studio for the last show with myself and the callers right through the day. Today's going to be a little different than that, though. Today is going to be a very quick-moving show with a lot of guests, a lot of folks calling in to kind of say goodbye and to just have a moment. So look at this. He can't even get down the stairs. I mean, watching Benigno. Why am I leaving? You're the one that should be retiring. Look at you, can't even get down the stairs. That's it. Let me get a guess before I see Evan and Joe come in here. I see Willie Randolph come in. All right, well, let's get one more on the phone.
Hello?
Before. Who's this?
Hello? 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 Is this the big guy? Is this the big guy?
I don't know that voice. Who is this? The Mad Dog is with us, folks. Christopher Russo. Welcome.
How you doing?
I'm
How you
well,
doing?
welcome. How are you? I just talked to O.J. Anderson. I see Willie Randolph's here. Joe and Evan are here. So it's an old party here right now. What are you up to? How's everything?
You deserve it, boy. You deserve it. The hell with me. This is not about me and breaking down Giancarlo Stanton of the Yankees. This is about you.
How mad are you we didn't go to the Giants?
Oh, I know. Jeez, the Giants. I tell you right now, I heard you on Sunday. You're right. I don't like this for the Yankees. I think this is bad karma. They don't need him. I tell you, I wasn't in love with it. I'll be honest with you. You felt the same way, right?
I did, absolutely. I actually did. You know, I would have taken Machado next year, but I think right now this doesn't make a whole lot of sense. It's going to make a lot of changes. They got to do a lot of things. They got to move, upset Judge. They got to do a lot of different things. Plus, you don't know if he's going to be a great influence in that locker room with all these guys coming in here making $300 million.
100%. Well, the hell with that. You and I are usually on the same page. How does it feel?
Yes.
You have essentially another 9 hours of radio in your life here at WFAN. You are retiring, at least for the moment, after a 30-year run. I'm not interested in me. I'm interested in you. How do you feel?
Well, you know what? I'm just going through it. Today's wild. All the people just calling in. It's unbelievable not knowing who's on the other end of the phone. Dick Ebersol called already. I haven't spoken to Dick Ebersol in years.
Wow.
So Nance, Dan Patrick, and now obviously. So listen, I got a couple hours left, and then I'm going to need somewhere to yell. So I might have to call you up and come on and yell a little bit. Just so
you can do more than you can do more than call me up. That's sit there, baby.
You've been spreading these rumors for months. They're not true. Would you tell the people it's not true?
No, it is not. I will say that we had Mike, we thought, signed a deal 4 hours a day, Monday through Friday, in the great Sirius XM. But it sounds like Phil Simmons came into the picture for crying out loud.
It's not
so I'm not
true.
sure. I'm not sure where he's fan, but Mike has got a seat there anytime he wants. How do you feel, though? Is this a weird feeling here after 30 years?
It will be. This is a fun show today with everybody calling in. I'm sure tomorrow will be a little different, but I did Imus this morning. He's coming on later, so we were reminiscing this morning. So it's fun to do it, obviously, and having all these people come through the show today, and we're going to have a million guests, and I don't even know who they are, so it's fun as everyone just calls in and says hello.
WFAN.
All right, one more time from the studios of WFAN in New York, and I guess there's going to be a name change in here after I depart today. This is Mike Francesa on the Fan on this Friday, December the 15th. It will be a Football Friday, unlike others, because it will be my final show on the Fan, which I think everybody understands by now. So I thank everybody for yesterday. Everyone who came down to the Paley Center, to my guys here who did a great job. And I saw a couple of things that, people send me different stuff. A couple of people saying that I really acted well since I knew every guest that I had put the list together. I was not aware of anybody on that list except I did know Imus was calling because I had to do his show to reciprocate. I figured Dog would be calling, so that didn't surprise me. And I did know about LT because LT actually had one of his people text me because he didn't have the control room number. I mean, I could have figured on some of them, okay? There were some ones that I knew would be there, like Jim Nance or Susan Wallman, but a lot of them, some of them absolutely shocked me, and I have to admit, and these guys did a great job jamming into a show where you still got to get in, 18 minutes of commercials an hour. Getting 85 guests into the show is not easy. And I thank everybody who took the time to do it, and some people who I had not talked to in years. Let's get it started.
Hopefully we get to hear from you someplace else soon, but just really want to thank you for everything you did last 30 years.
Thanks very much. And I'll be around. That'll be for another day, but I definitely, this is not the end. I'm still formulating stuff. I wouldn't be able to tell you anyway right now, as you know, but I really am still in the stage where I'm considering. I am working towards a couple of things. I have had a couple of offers to do things, more than a couple, but I mean, I've a couple that I've taken seriously. Some have been nice that I just, not ready to do right now, but I'm not looking to work, Monday to Friday. I don't think I'll conventionally work Monday to Friday again. I mean, I'd be very surprised if I did. If I come back Monday to Friday, I'll even surprise myself if I ever do that. So, but I still expect to produce a lot of content. I want to. I still like this. I still like talking about sports. I love talking about it, debating it, and getting involved with it. So I will do that. I'll let you know as soon as I know. I promise I'll keep everybody abreast. They asked me to take one more call, so I will. This is almost like yesterday. I don't know who it is, but they said this person wants to be the last caller. So welcome.
Hello, husband.
You're going to be the last call.
First time, last time.
This is actually my lovely wife, who has never, ever been on the show before. In the history of the program, never been on the program. So that is fitting that you are the last caller. You know that? It really is.
Well, this is amazing. And God has truly blessed you.
Yes.
And now it's time for you to come home to your biggest fans.
Well, thank you. You are, and that is as fitting a call as I am shocked, first of all, because I never thought you would get on the air ever. And even today, when the photographers asked you to take a picture with me, you refused again to even take a picture. So you usually shun all publicity. So that is fitting, and I could not have had a better last caller. So I love you and thank you, and I will do that right after I have a few final words. Have you enjoyed the show the last couple of days?
Love it.
Okay. Well, anything you want to say before you let me get to the last half hour? Anything?
Nope. Hang in there.
Right.
And we love you.
Thank you. In January, when everyone's back in their regular routine, and I'm not here, and there's that big event, and that big game, and that controversial ending, and I don't have that audience, that ready-made platform to go to speak, I'm sure it's going to impact me, and I'm going to feel it a lot. And then I'll know exactly where I am, because I've had that for so long, and that has been with me every day for so long, and I can't tell you how much I've loved that and how much it has meant to me. I really believe that I've had the best job that anyone could have in this city, not just for sports, for anything. For any kind of broadcasting, any kind of entertainment. I never once, until when I decided to leave 2 years ago, I never once thought of leaving here. Not one time from 1989 until 2 years ago. Not one time did I ever talk to anybody about it. Not one time did I entertain an offer. I never considered leaving once. That's how much I love this job. That's how much I thought how special it was to be put in this position. Once we had found out early on that we were going to be successful, which, fortunately for Dog and I, after a rocky start, we did find out very quickly that what we were doing was working. And we both, thank God, was smart enough to understand that, comprehend that, and make the most of it and realize that we had something special and throw our efforts into that. And except for a couple of times when our egos, or my ego, or our unreasonable attitude, or my unreasonable attitude got in the way. And that only happened 2 or 3 times. But except for that, we did pour everything we had into doing the best show we could do. I was blessed to have Dog as a partner, especially for this reason. Number one, because he was a good radio guy. But number two, because he never gave anything except his absolute best effort every day. And that's what I tried to bring here every day. It's what I believe in. I tried to always come in here prepared. I tried to always come in here and give you the best effort I could ever give you. I never mailed in a show. And I walk out of here tonight in just a couple of minutes when I say goodbye, knowing that, frankly, I have never worked a day in my life because I have loved this. You know, I've told my kids this all the time. I tell them now, I tell Jack, I tell Emily, I tell Harrison, I say, I want you to do all these different things right now. And I tell you, everybody out there who's listening right now, who's thinking about what they're going to do with their life, find something that excites you. Find something that makes you passionate and grab it. First, find out what it is you love and grab it. And then if you can find something, you're blessed. But if you can then, after you're done with your schooling, find something that you can make a living at that you love, well, then you're not only doubly blessed, you'll never work a day in your life. And I walk out of here after 30 years. And I've been handsomely rewarded. But I'll tell you this. While obviously I negotiated as tough as I could, that's a different story. But I also feel like I've never worked a day in my life. Luckily, I didn't have to. There weren't a lot of things I think I would have been good at. But I found something that I knew how to do and something that I love doing. And I leave here after 30 years feeling so unbelievably grateful and unbelievably blessed that I've been able to do this. This has been a great station. It's the greatest city in the world. You guys are the greatest fans in the world. You're passionate, you're knowledgeable, you care, and that means so much. To go to a city that has no passion, anything without passion is just not the same as something with passion. Passion makes everything better. Passion makes everything more exciting, more challenging, more dynamic, and that's what this city has about everything. I've been asked a lot over the last couple of weeks, you know, how much you're going to miss this, and like I said, I don't know yet. I'm going to miss it, I'm sure, a lot, but I can tell you this. I'm very proud of what Mike and the Mad Dog accomplished. I'm very proud of what I've accomplished. I'm very proud of what the fan has stood for. And like I said, I think it's built on a foundation where it'll be around and it will do well for many, many years to come. I want to thank everyone that I've had a chance to work with. I wish you all success. I wish the people who are going to follow me, Continent and Maggie and Bart, nothing but success. I wish them good luck because they're part of the fan, and I will always be part of the fan. It's something I helped create and something that will always mean a lot to me. Can't spell Francesa without FAN. And it will always be a part of my heart and part of my being because it's something that means a great deal to me. Everyone I've worked with, thank you. To the people who have been my day-to-day people here with me, my update guys, Mons and Chris, Cherney, who's been with me for 25 years. We fought like crazy. We didn't talk for months. Sometimes he probably hated my guts, probably more often than not. But you know what? We were able to be incredibly successful together, and that's really what it's about. That's what his job is. He had to manage me, and that's what he did. And we were able to win a whole bunch of championships, and I'm very proud of that, exceedingly proud. But more than anything else, going out, I want to thank you guys, the listeners, the audience. Because without you, we don't last a week. We don't last a month. So what I'd like to say to you is I will miss you. I thank you. And from the bottom of my heart, I love you. Goodbye.
Before I get into the last couple of days, which were fascinating to me from a radio standpoint, from an ass-kissing standpoint, and from a blatant disrespect for how people truly feel about one another, let me just give you the etymology. They announced that Boomer and I were going to replace Don Imus in August of 2007. Imus was forced out. He was fired by WFAN. Before we ever did our first show, Mark thought it would be important for Mike and I to sit down together to have lunch just to discuss my arrival at the fan. He clearly wanted to do it to appease Mike and make it as if he was getting Mike's blessing to hire me and Boomer, specifically me. Mike had known Boomer, of course, although not personally very well. They at least had a connection. Me, I was a different story. When I was working at WIP Radio in Philadelphia, I had put out a report that Eric Lindros, the star captain of the Philadelphia Flyers, had missed the game because he was hungover. Mike went after me on the air, not knowing who I was or anything about me, but attacked the story from the standpoint of how could I possibly know if he was over the limit or under the limit. Regardless of that, I was friendly with a number of the people at WFAN, A, because I worked for the company, CBS Radio, albeit in Philadelphia, and B, because back in the first year of WFAN's existence, I was an intern on the Pete Franklin Show, and there were still a lot of people working at the fan in 1997 who worked there when I was an intern. As I came by the Mike and the Mad Dog desk on Radio Row, he immediately started attacking me about the merits of my report. I told him to go fuck himself, he told me the same, and we walked away from each other. Neither one of us worse off for the experience. So fast forward now. It's August 2007. WFAN has announced that Boomer and I are going to be the afternoon hosts. I meet Mike Francesa with Mark Chernoff at the Cup Diner in Astoria. And now here we were. Mike showed up late, which I figured he would. Sat down at the table wearing sunglasses. As Mark started to tell Mike about why I was the guy he chose to hire, Mike refused to take the sunglasses off, refused to look at either one of us, and instead either looked out the window or looked at the plate of French fries he had ordered that was in front of him. For 45 minutes, he did not once make eye contact with me and repeatedly said throughout the 45-minute lunch, the show will never work, okay? Okay? You got no shot of making it work, okay? There's no way you're going to work with Boomer, okay? And for 45 minutes telling me how the show had no chance, I, of course, didn't have the skills to make it work. But if Cherney said I was the guy, then fine, I'm the guy. But it's never going to happen. He, of course, could have made it happen overnight. I had no chance to make it happen. 45 minutes later, he left the Cup Diner. Mark and I sat there. Mark said, I'm really sorry it went that way, but thank you for meeting with him. That's all I could have asked. Period. Stop. Boomer and I went on the air September 4th, 2007, and in the first month, we realized very quickly, Mike and Chris in particular, they got great joy out of pointing out the mistakes that we might make on the radio, and God knows we made plenty of them. They would also talk on the air, openly by themselves and with their producers at the time, about what their favorite morning shows were on the radio. Of course, Boomer and Carton never got mentioned. They went out of their way to be total assholes when we first got the job, and tried their hardest to make sure that we would either be humiliated, embarrassed, or some combination of the two. But whatever it took to make sure that Boomer and I would not get the job done, they went out of their way to try to do it. The infamous moment, of course, was when we had our first ever serious trivia contest. The question was, against which team did Joe DiMaggio's hit streak come to an end? Now, of course, if you're a diehard Yankee fan, you immediately know the answer to that question. I was not a diehard Yankee fan. I didn't spend much time worrying about trivia like that, and I didn't know the answer. We had a producer back then named Dan Cronin. Dan handed us a piece of paper in which the question was written out, and on that piece of paper was an answer. Al Dukes was screening calls, and when he got a call that was the answer on the piece of paper, he put that call on hold, and he sent it over to me and Boomer to take on the air. Billy, you're on the air. What is the answer to the question? And Billy said, the Chicago White Sox. Well, on our piece of paper, it too said the Chicago White Sox. So we said, congratulations. The problem with that, of course, is that the DiMaggio hit streak was stopped against the Cleveland Indians. This became a real problem. It became a problem because the guy that called in won tickets, so you had to give him his tickets. And he got the answer wrong, so somebody else should have gotten a chance to win tickets. So the radio station, in our first ever big giveaway, had to come up with another pair of World Series tickets. It became fodder for Mike and Chris on their show the very next day. Mike and Chris went on the air and spent a good 20 minutes of the show berating Boomer and I and telling their audience how embarrassing it was that we didn't know the answer for it and that we ultimately blamed Dan Cronin for giving us the wrong answer when in fact we should have known the answer. Well, guilty as charged, I suppose we should have known the answer, but they made it a point to embarrass us for not knowing. They made it as if we weren't worthy enough of broadcasting on WFAN. Now, this type of behavior became regular on their show. So much so that when I told Mark Chernoff that I was going to attack them back, it became a big problem for him. He knew full well that if it got down to a radio war, Boomer and I, me specifically, were not going to lose to Mike and Chris. Nobody had ever attacked them before. If you attack me, I'm going to attack you back. I went on the air one day and I did just that, and I attacked something that they had said about me and Boomer. And this became a real problem, and Mike went complaining to Mark Chernoff about it. What's really funny about Mike is that for 10 years, he would tell his audience that he never once listened to our show, was totally unaware of everything we would say. That is a bold-faced lie, as you know. Mike listened to our show every day. Mike used to call up Mark or text Mark on a daily basis complaining about the things that we have said. I've seen the text messages. I've seen the emails. When I would take a shot at Mike for his ratings, he actually wrote handwritten letters to Mark explaining why the ratings were not accurate, or explaining what part of the ratings were important to him and what parts weren't. He was insecure about us from Jump Street, something that I learned out of his own mouth. That first time I took a shot at them on the air, Mark Chernoff called me up and said, "We have a real problem. You can't attack Mike on the air." And I said, "Fuck you. He attacks me, I'm going to attack him right back." He goes, "Well, I need you to talk to him." I go, "I'll talk to Mike anytime you want." He literally put Mike on the phone during a commercial break with me, and nothing got resolved. Well, nothing except for one very important thing. The next day, and this again goes into early 2008, we had the only meeting that myself, Boomer, Mike, and Mark Chernoff had in the 10 years that we worked together. Now, the reason we were all together is that Boomer had it as part of his contract that his foundation would take the place of Imus's when it came to doing radiothons. Mike decided, well, if Boomer's got a charity and a foundation and he's getting a lot of attention for it, I'm going to have one too. And he worked out a heart health program with Long Island Jewish Hospital, LIJ. The program itself sounded wonderful. The problem was, I wasn't going to promote it until I got an explanation and an apology for why Mike was such an asshole to me and Boomer. For the first 9 months that we were at WFAN, I was not allowed to respond back. I was not allowed to do bits and parodies about them. I was not allowed to mock their show. And I sat down with Mark Chernoff before this meeting, and I told Mark and the radio station that the day Boomer and I are number one in the ratings, I will attack that show every single day of the week for the rest of my career as long as we're number one. So now it's time for the big meeting. And then Mike sauntered in, and Mike did something very funny. Rather than sit at the same level seat that the three of us were sitting at, Mike decided to sit on top of Chernoff's desk. But he sat on top of the desk to look down on us, to have some type of air of superiority. And he walked us through his charity, and Mark told us that we're going to have to promote it, much like he's going to have to promote Boomers. And I said, no. I said, I will not promote your charity until you explain to us why you've been such an asshole. That is a direct quote. To Mike's credit, he took ownership of it. He said, "Craig, you're right, I have been an asshole. I have been because you guys are getting all the attention, and we've been here a lot longer than you. And beyond that, Imus was my guy. He's responsible for my career. So I'm in Imus's corner, and by default, I can't be in your corner. And that's why." While I appreciated his honesty, that was the reason for the rift that lasted a full decade. Remember, Mike Francesa, who I don't know personally, and he might be a wonderful guy, he was your typical schoolyard bully, nothing more, nothing less. The arrival of our show, at least the success of our show, meant something totally different for Mike that he had never experienced in his entire career. It's one thing to have the Phil Mushnicks of the world criticize you on a weekly basis, and essentially that's what Phil Mushnick did. He did it to me too, but he largely did it to Mike. Whether it was Mike being an egomaniac, Mike making a mistake, Mike lying about something he had said and then denying he said it, there was always going to be someone in the newspaper business that thought of it as his job to hold Mike accountable for the things he said. There's no denying that Mike Francesa is one of the iconic personalities in sports talk radio. The reality of the situation is that Mike Francesa had nothing to do with the early success of WFAN. One guy saved the radio station, and that was Don Imus. Francesa got his opportunity to be the afternoon guy for a couple of reasons. He truly knew his sports. He had Jim Nantz in his corner as Nantz's career was starting to blossom, and he had Imus with him. The success of Mike and the Mad Dog speaks for itself. What you have to do, and what Mike did very, very well, was give you a reason to react. Either you're a Mike Francesa fan and you love the fact that he was the know-it-all guy on the radio and unwavering in his opinions and unwilling to admit a mistake no matter how silly that mistake would be, or you hated him, but you hated him for the exact same reasons. That's what makes a great radio star. When Dog left, it became open season, but only because there was now a show on the very same radio station willing to be critical and to poke fun more than anything at Mike's stuff. Whether it was Mike falling asleep when Sweeney Murdy was doing an update, whether it was the constant, okay, whether it was pointing out funny phrases like snowblower, window thrower, things of that nature. Things that for 20 years nobody had ever pointed out, no one had clearly ever made fun of it, and he did it in a vacuum. So all of a sudden, it's now okay for everybody to listen to Mike's audio, to take Mike's video when he was simulcasted by Yes, and then for the short time with Fox, and to repackage it as funny. The problem, though, is that Mike wasn't in on the joke. Mike felt that his popularity was soaring through the roof because people loved what he was doing without Russo. The reality is that his digital popularity had nothing to do with the fact that people respected him or even liked him. His digital internet popularity rose like a shooting star based on the fact that it was now okay to poke fun at him. Let's talk about ratings. Ratings, of course, are the lifeblood of every talk show. Ratings are what, ratings when you have them, you gloat about them. When you don't have them, you don't like to talk about them. Ratings are also one of the most misunderstood aspects of radio. And I say that because you get judged on particular demographics. Meaning, if you do sports talk radio, your radio station typically only cares about men between the ages of 25 and 54. And as long as you deliver big ratings in that specific demographic, it doesn't matter if anybody else listens to you, you have to get the job done there. For a good portion of Mike's career, he and Russo together and he alone were a number one rated show specifically in that demographic. Over the last 2 years of Mike's career, he was rarely number one. What they used to do, though, to make it look better, they would break out 1 to 3 and put it aside, and then 3 to 7. And frequently, Mike would be number one between 3 and 7, but when you put the entire show together, 1 to 6:30, he was not number one. Mike Francesa was the preeminent afternoon show host in New York City, and he didn't have to be number one every week to be that. I don't know. I never thought he understood that, but he had the cachet that no other afternoon show had. Mike's goodbye. Well, I listened to some of it. I was in the car for some of it. I wasn't taking my kids to school the whole day. There were people that called up thanking Mike for creating the genre of sports talk radio because they gave them an opportunity for the job. There were people that called in and said they never could have ever been a successful radio show host if it wasn't for Mike Francesa. There were those people who I thought were genuine and real, who obviously have a great friendship and relationship with Mike, who Mike was clearly very good to. But then other people called in, and there's no point in me naming names right now. People who I've had conversations with that detested Mike, that didn't like Mike, that didn't like the concept of what he did, didn't like his personality. But there they were in line, waiting for their opportunity to have their voices heard on Mike's second to last show to tell Mike how special he was. Now, in that regard, that's saying a lot about Mike. For people that disliked him, for people that behind his back would tell the world of what kind of asshole he might have been to them in their professional lives, to call up the show to tell Mike how great he was is fascinating. Not a single caller called up and said, man, you used to bust my balls and I fucking hated it. But you know what? You're retiring now. That's good for all of us. I appreciate you being who you were for blah, blah, blah. But no one did that. The final show to me of caller after caller telling Mike how great he was pointless. I thought there would have been I don't know what the different way is or better way, but 5.5 hour love-a-thon of Mike, you meant so much to me. Mike, you're the best. I'm going to miss you. I don't know what I'm going to do. The stark reality is that every single person that called into that show is going to listen to Chris Carlin later this afternoon. And when Chris and Maggie and Bart start doing the show in January, whenever it is, they're going to give that show a chance too. The one thing Mike Francesa did that you'll never understand the difficulty of doing it is to do a 5.5 hour show every day of the week, 5 days a week. That's over 20 hours of programming a week, every single week. The best sitcom in America does 22 minutes a week, has a staff of 27 writers, and half the jokes fall flat on their face. To entertain an audience for 22 hours a week, unscripted, and have to be there, come rain or come shine, whatever it might be. To deliver 20 plus hours of content every week is saying something. And despite the fact that I thought he was a bully, despite all the bullshit, all the negative things that I think of when I think of Mike Francesa, I do have great respect for this. To last 30 years in this profession and do it in the manner that he did without caring for one single minute what anybody thought about him, from day one to the final day, there's something to be said for that. I respect a 30-year career in those terms a great, great deal.
Oh my God! It's Boomer and Gio.
Oh! Back after this.
No more FAN.
Don't say it again.
No more FAN.
You said that with a straight face. Oh my God! What's wrong with you people?
I'm the best there is.
Live from the Investors Bank studio, Boomer Esiason and Greg Giannotti, Boomer and Gio on the Fan and across the country on CBS Sports Network. You heard it right. Yesterday was a very odd day around here. You look at the back pages of the newspapers this morning, it's a huge story. People are interested. Mike Francesa will be coming back
After this.
WFAN, the official news, I'm sure will be out there at some point. When he's starting, when exactly he's going to be on, all of that. And this business is a rough business, Boomer. It is a weird business. It's a rough business. It's a crazy business. And yesterday was one of those days I will never forget. And this place has had a lot of those days recently, but yesterday was another one I will never forget. And personally, it made me feel a little uneasy the entire day. It did. It made me feel uneasy and...
Better look over your shoulder.
Well, basically, yeah. Next thing you know, I'll be doing 4 a.m. to 6 a.m.
It's the only time frame left, actually.
Jeez.
All I can tell you, Gio, man, is don't you worry about anything, man. You're good to go. You're locked in. It's all fine and dandy. But, I've been here for now 10 years, 10 and a half years, and I've seen a lot of wacky crap go on. And yesterday it's still not the most unique day that I've ever had.
Sure,
I can
right,
tell you that.
Of course, yep.
But it was really a kind of a surreal day. It was a dysfunctional day, and that's what radio stations are. They're dysfunctional, right? There's a lot of people here that do their things wacky, whether it be the guys in the bullpen, or whether it be the sales, or whether it be management, or whether it be us idiots
The heck
on
with
the radio. What's that?
The heck with Boomer.
Yeah, the heck with Boomer, right. So so it's a weird thing, and I immediately thought back when Mike made the declaration yesterday through his press secretary Neil Best that
you mean Neil Huckabee Sanders Best?
Yeah, that's right, that the Francesa administration was coming back.
Yeah, right.
That somehow, some way there was this conspiracy here at the station to keep him off the air was the most bizarre thing.
I know.
Out of all of this for me, because I haven't seen that. I know there's nobody upstairs that feels that way, and I know there's nobody down the hall certainly that feels that way.
Yeah, who is that?
So where all that came from and why that came out and why Mike decided to announce that he was coming back without a contract was bizarre in its own right.
But
And
very Mike, though, right?
But very Mike. Where basically everybody here is caught off guard, so then they have to bring us into an office and sit us down and tell us what's going on, and that yes, in fact, they are in conversations with Mike about bringing him back and creating an app for him, or he's creating an app or something, and he's going to go through the whole Mike and the Mad Dog history and all this stuff. I don't know
Wait,
what
the
else is going on.
Francesa app is happening?
Yes, it's going to
That
be
again?
Francesa. Oh yeah, that's coming back.
Okay, here we go. All we got to do is you go to iTunes. Okay.
But right, exactly.
You type in my name. That is, you hit yes. Okay, it downloads, and then there I am.
What's an app?
Yeah, okay. It's like the Francesa alarm clock or something. That'll be part of it. Wake up!
Right.
You lazy bastard!
No! So it's kind of amazing. So you sit around here and you go through all of this, and part of it's funny, part of it's dysfunctional, part of it is the Twitter mob is out there wanting to know: are you going to keep your office? You're not keeping your office.
You're keeping your office.
Of course I'm keeping my office. I mean, everybody's having fun with it, but there's human carnage on the side, and the side of that is this diversity group that we supposedly had here, and we were so proud of it, of having a woman and an African American, and bringing back a guy who's been a part of the station for a long time, our friend Chris Carlin, that this was going to be awesome, that this was going to be the greatest thing, and we all knew that they were stepping into big shoes, and they had big shoes to fill, and that they would figure it out, and somehow, some way, it would happen, and then all of a sudden.
Back after this.
Right. Mike decided
they didn't get a shot.
Mike decided to get an agent, and the agent went to somebody not in this building, went to somebody down in Philadelphia, and started this whole dialogue. And when Mike and the Mad Dog basically went after CMB, you remember that whole thing, and then I went after them, saying can you give them more than 3 months? And
Absolutely.
you guys basically took yourselves off the air here.
Right.
Why can't you just let them be? And don't one of them worked with you guys
The heck
for a
with
long
Boomer.
time.
Yeah.
So I come to find out that when I actually go on the air and do that, they're already in discussions with them to come back.
Which is unbelievable.
I mean, so it's like, oh my God, this is it's bizarre, it's crazy. I think from a standpoint of the radio station, it's great. If he wants to come back, he comes back. He was the number one guy. He's the guy's been here for a long time. Whatever he does it. And people seem to either like it or hate it, but they listen to it, which is important. But the human toll is significant because basically 3 people here just got, reduced roles. Now, this is the other thing. Now, here's the other part of the collateral damage, from my perspective, right? This really means a lot.
Yeah.
Those guys are not going to have their contracts cut or anything. They're going to have their time cut.
Yep.
So
and moved. I mean,
moved to a new
right.
time. Joe and Evan are not going to have their contracts cut, which is good, but they're going to have their time cut.
Of course, back to 3 hours for them.
Right,
Yep.
so those guys will all work less hours. Joe is actually doing backflips out here.
Yeah,
for
this is unbelievable. He's jumping in the Evan Roberts My Pillow read. He's like, I don't need a My Pillow tonight. I'll be sleeping great, bro. This is unbelievable. I mean, come on. Yeah.
So we have all of that, and then the only people that are not getting more money and less time is us.
Yeah, right. 4 hours. I need to renegotiate. Let's go.
What the hell are we doing here? I
don't know.
Maybe if Mike wants one of our hours, we can give him one of our hours.
Who had a worse day, CMB or Michael K?
I'm 48-0.
Uh-oh, watch out, baby.
Yeah, I know. And I know that Chris, Maggie, and Bart don't want to hear the sympathy or I feel bad for them. They don't want to hear that stuff right now. I mean, but yesterday I did. I mean, I thought of them right away. And if I were one of them, I would feel horrible. And it can be spun any which way. This will be a good thing for them. The pressure's off of them. And that's what you're going to hear from particular people. But, I mean, personally, that sucks. It absolutely sucks for them because it's not like there was an extended period of time that they were given to do their thing and find themselves. And now every day that they walk in there, here, they're going to feel like, wow. I mean, everybody looks at us now as a failure, and that's just the perception of what it's going to be, and that's not fair. That's not fair at all, and that's not what should have happened. But this is this business, right? And if Mike decides to come back and the success that Mike has had and Mike can't be on another radio station, this is what happens. You don't have to like it, right? And I don't necessarily like the way that it went down, but you understand it from the standpoint of what the radio station wants to do to build itself up and be as strong as possible.
I would tell you that if when the Pope does arrive and the red carpet is rolled out and everybody's happy, nice, and all this other stuff, because I would think that the first thing you should do is go up to the three of them and apologize and say, hey, man, I'm sorry. This is not really what I wanted. This is not how I wanted this all to go down.
And then I will go sprinkle salt where hell froze over.
Right, exactly. But I'm just saying that's basically the reality of this. That's the reality is that when Maggie, Bart, and Chris leave here, where are they going? They're going back home to their families. They're going to their friends. They're going back to their agents. They're going back to people in their lives who care deeply about them.
Mm-hmm.
So they are going to be hearing it from all over the place.
Yeah.
And that is going to fuel whatever, in them that will either bring it out in them on the air here or make for very interesting moments when they go walking past each other through the Mike Francesa studio. I'm assuming that they're going to still work in there. Is that that's going to work? How
guess,
are we doing that?
Unless they're going to come in here now. I mean, they may do that. They might have Joe and Evan 10-1 in the Mike Francesa studio. CMB moves into the Boomer and Geo studio. But now, did you still have a Mike
Francesa studio?
I think you can, because the Jordan statue went up and then Jordan came back, and they didn't take that down.
Right.
So this is sort of like the same thing.
That's a statue that's probably $150,000 to $250,000 statue.
I'll give you another.
And maybe even more than that. Sitting out in front of the stadium and people taking pictures with it.
This is like a $6 plaque.
This is a $6 plaque, and I don't know if you can. I don't see how you could keep that plaque up personally.
It's staying up.
It's definitely staying up. There's no doubt about it. And the statue's probably on the way, too.
You think there's a statue as well?
Yeah, right. There's an ice sculpture that'll be here the day it comes back.
Look, radio could be a real sewer pit. And there's a lot of backstabbing and knife throwing and all that other stuff that goes on. Try to stay above a lot of that stuff. But unfortunately, you can't. And, three people basically have gotten screwed. I don't care what.
Very publicly.
I don't care how you put it. They have gotten screwed, and they've gotten screwed by a guy who said he was never going to be on this radio station again, who decided to come back because of some conspiracy to keep him off the air. I have no idea what the hell that means.
To me, he fabricated that to try to become a sympathetic figure in a situation where he looked like a bully. That's my opinion. I don't know. But I don't know if there were actual people around here that were trying to get him to. Nobody even knew that this was happening. I mean, that's the other thing. None of us had any real idea until yesterday it started leaking out. And quite honestly, when it first came out the night before, what was that? So today's Wednesday. So Monday night when it first started coming out, there was another host at the radio station here who's been clued in. He's been around for a long time. Texted me and he goes, I don't buy this at all. Do you buy this? And I was like, absolutely no way. He's not coming back. Nobody had any idea. Nobody had a chance to rally against Mike to come up with some sort of mystery group to get against him. That's crazy.
The other thing, too, the big boss wants something. And
he's going to get it.
He's going to get it. If the CEO of the company wants something, he's going to get it. And, he didn't work for the previous, for the CEO because the company is now merged and we are now Entercom, not CBS any longer. So the executives that he is dealing with on that level now are not the ones that he used to deal with.
Yep.
So technically you could say that he resigned and retired on the other executives and now is coming back for this new executive, which is fine too. It's his radio station and Mike will bring a sizzle back to the station.
Right, there's no doubt about that. And we're not naive to that, by the way. We understand what he means to this place and he'll come back and there's going to be more people paying attention. I mean, for crying out loud.
But I will say this, it ain't going to be comfortable around here.
No, it's not.
It will not be comfortable.
And that's the shrapnel you're going to have to deal with. And I mean, and I feel it. I feel uneasy. I can't even imagine what it's like to be Chris, Maggie, or Bart. Now, I think, Bart's a guy who's probably, he could do whatever he wants, I think it really, and Maggie left a different job to come here, and she hasn't been around the radio business as much and probably didn't expect something like this to happen. But, Chris Carton and I had a very similar path. He's a little bit older than me, but a very similar path. And, trying to put myself in his shoes is a very, very difficult thing to do. And I can't imagine that feeling he must have had yesterday. So he did not deserve this.
No, I don't. I think actually I will give Mad Dog a little credit because basically yesterday he kind of hit on all the buttons that were right. I mean, he was right that the station was unprepared for him to leave. But then again, in the middle of all that, Craig got arrested.
Yeah.
So you have a middle of all that kind of figure out what you're doing in the morning show, then the afternoon show. Then they try to do something that was diverse that the station had never done before. I mean, they had Kim Jones on here. They have Tony Page on here. They started with, what was it, Brian Gumbel, I think, started on here. And they tried to really honestly
Dave Sims.
do exactly what Mark said. We're going to try to be diverse. We're going to celebrate the diversity and get different opinions and different voices and all that other stuff. But there's only one voice, really, according to them in the afternoon, and that happens to be the Pope. And he's coming back.
We don't know when he's going to start, but I mean, it'll be
I
fascinating.
think he'll start next Tuesday. I think he'll be here next Tuesday, and
Yeah.
he will start up and. The new, I think Raceman's pretty much got everything. Wherever he's gotten his information from, it's been pretty spot on. It's the definite way that this thing has gone down. There's no question about it.
I wonder,
whatever you say, and I know that he and Chris Carlin had worked together at SNY, so
Right.
Maybe he got some stuff from Chris or his agent or whatever, and I don't blame him. Honestly, I don't blame him. Look, when I got run out of ABC. Back in 2000, I went out guns a-blazing, man, and I was angry.
Sure.
And not only did I get fired, there were like, 50 other people that got fired.
Right.
And
He did what?
That's exactly right. I was like the shrapnel, and I'm saying and all those people got fired underneath, and it was a hard time, and it's an embarrassing time, and it really is true. And those folks, to their credit, are trying to be good teammates. They don't want to lose their jobs. They don't want to lose their paychecks. I don't blame them for that. I mean, but, they got to come here, and now they got to go behind these mics every single day for the next 2 years, because I think that's how long their contracts are, and they're going to have to cross paths with the guy that basically is kicking them to the curb.
Now, is he going to do most of his shows from here? Because I know there's been some stuff about him building a studio in his house, and I know one of the reasons why I wanted to leave the first time was the commute. He didn't love the commute, so I wonder how much we're even going to see of him. I mean, and also... something I thought about, too. Do Carlin and Mike now talk off the air and have, like, a sit-down together? Does that happen? Because
what does that accomplish?
I don't know. I mean, maybe...
This is the human cost of what's going on here. It's great, and it's great fodder for, the listener, and everybody's out there, what are they saying? What's going on? We're trying to be as honest as we can.
Well, I'm just saying everything I would have said off the air, on the air, and how I feel about it, quite honestly. And I don't know. If I was Chris, I'd have a tough time sitting down and looking at him. I would probably put the blinders on if I were him. I'd put the blinders on and I'd say, okay, this is the situation. I have to go and do the best show possible, and I can't. And it's almost impossible not to think about that stuff, but he's got to try everything in his power not to. And I wouldn't go in there and kiss the ring.
Well, a few other things I need to know. I need to know how much summer vacation is he taking? Are we doing Bar A again? Do we do a retirement tour in about 18 months?
A welcome back tour. We got to have the welcome back tour.
Do we have a tour for that now? What about the sponsors that paid for the retirement tour last year? Does he apologize to them for that? I mean,
Yeah.
I mean, the reunions, all the crap that went on, all the egomaniacal crap that went on around all of it. I mean, there's a lot of things. It's like you sit down and you say to yourself, wow, okay, I get it.
Yeah.
I understand it from a business standpoint.
So do I, totally. I mean, this radio station feels more powerful this morning with him coming back. It does.
There's no question.
It does. There's no doubt. There's no doubt. You cannot argue
that.
It's
making a trade at the trade deadline.
You cannot argue that.
We just added a DH. Come on, man.
Right. You can't argue that. And that's why they did it. And that's why this happened. And unfortunately...
Well, they did it because he wanted it to happen.
Well, yeah, but I'm saying that's why they said yes to the... They didn't have to say yes to him.
Right.
They didn't have to, and management did because they understand how powerful he is. And when you have that type of success for that long... You're afforded these opportunities in this business.
It looks pathetic, though. The whole thing looks pathetic.
It does. It does. And if he had just stayed, like there was that opportunity after the whole Craig thing went down. For him,
easily could have stayed.
And none of this would have happened. There was an opportunity there. If cooler heads had prevailed, he would have stayed. There would have been an opening in the mornings, and that would have been it. And then this whole thing
But he
happened.
wanted to double his contract, and they weren't going to do that. That was in the previous group, and they weren't going to do that. So,
yeah.
But now he comes back, hires an agent, gets less of a contract, and
gets his old job back.
Gets his old job back.
And he's got to pay commission now.
The whole thing
right?
is just absolutely crazy.
Right.
And I'm going to go upstairs. We're going to start our own internal investigation to figure out who's trying to keep him off the air. I mean, that to me just speaks to everything that this is all about. It's bizarro land is what it is.
I mean, and I can't even think about anyone around here that would start some sort of secret mystery group to campaign to keep him away from here. It's nuts.
It's insane. I felt like once everybody kind of got in their seats and everything else, the morale around here was great, right? And then all of a sudden yesterday, there was like this major thunderstorm that came rolling through this building.
Yeah, that's fair. That's a fair assessment.
And I don't know if I was the only one that was feeling it.
No, I felt it too. That's what I mentioned. One of the first things I said is I felt uneasy. Now, I know that you have the reasons that we just talked about, him coming back and how it should theoretically help the radio station a lot. But there's no doubt about it that when you just several months ago stood next to, as we all did, that new show, and we were unveiled to everybody, and there was excitement and all of that was going on.
Yeah.
For it to change like that, there's no doubt that there's some anxiety, some uneasiness, some, you're looking around, you're starting to get a little bit paranoid, you're checking to see if there's a helicopter following you. I mean, there's a little bit of that goes on in that day. Yesterday, it was a little strange. Now, I think that eventually we get back to doing what we're doing and we don't think about it.
I just think of the fresh material that's coming.
Oh, sure,
that's
there's
awesome
that too. Right.
That's going to make it great. I mean, we tried to stay away from some of that stuff, but now it's
I know.
Now we're back in business. The way I look at it.
Without a doubt. I mean, Eddie is the happiest man on earth.
Well, the weirdest thing is, like, we get a gag order, and then I'm driving home and hearing 10-10 wins doing this story. It's like,
exactly. That was the most bizarre thing yesterday because, honestly, I don't think Mark really understood. Chernoff understood exactly what the hell was happening and how quickly it was happening, and the fact that Mike announced that he was coming back without a contract. So when you had all of that stuff out there and you had, Neil Best, Sarah Huckabee Sanders doing what he does for Mike, then all of a sudden you have to react to it as a station. But at the end of the day, we were already off the air by that time.
Yeah, and Neil Best, the best, I guess, comparison I could say with Neil Best and Mike Francesa is Brian Windhorst and LeBron James.
Yes, exactly.
Brian Windhorst follows around LeBron. Everything he does, he's only relevant because of that. It's funny to me. It is.
I think Frank Geisel had a great tweet yesterday. Does that mean, Neil Best is back writing again? I'm hoping that Mushnick's back writing again, actually.
Actually, Neil has been up tweeting every one of your quotes so far.
Oh, he has? Okay, great, good.
Oh, God, I feel terrible for him.
That's
the only
awesome.
thing I saw Neil do in this time that Mike was off was do like one rating story and then go to Calgary to cover the Islanders in the Flames. I mean, he's back
in business,
he's
baby.
back in business.
He knows what works.
Right.
Now the question is, what is Mushnick's role in all this? There's got to be like a huge spread coming on Sunday.
I mean,
right?
he has not slept. I mean, I'm sure that he is up. He's writing stuff down. He's crossing stuff out. He's
the meatloaf.
He is ready. I mean, there's going to be something coming there without
the
a doubt.
interesting thing for people who are watching us on CBS Sports Network and are not from New York and really don't understand like what we're talking about, it would be hard for me to believe that there's that many people out there that don't understand that.
Right.
I mean, this is a huge story around here.
Oh, it is.
Especially, in our workplace where we, come here every day. We deal with all these great people around here.
Yep.
And now yesterday was literally like a tsunami hit the building again.
Yeah, I know. And hopefully, eventually, it's good for everybody. It's going to be tough to be a good thing for CMB. There's no doubt about it. But, I mean, that's the hope. I mean, I don't think...
You're great friends with Chris, right?
Yeah,
Am I right?
he's been a friend of mine for a very long time.
And what's amazing about that friendship and what you guys did here is that you guys left here.
Yeah.
Thanks for the people who work here, who gave you opportunities to go other places, cut your teeth, if you will. Build your brand, do whatever you did. You did it in Pittsburgh. Chris went to SNY. He also went to Philadelphia.
Right.
And, does Rutgers, does all of that stuff.
Yeah.
And think about how busy he is and everything that's going on in his life. And you guys then all of a sudden, because of things that happen at this station that you didn't force to happen or he didn't force to happen.
Right.
Come together and you have two of the biggest seats at the station at the same time.
Yeah, I know, and that's why I was thinking about them all
amazing.
yesterday. And I
it's a great story.
It was, yeah, right, absolutely. And now, that's all I could really think about yesterday was him. And I know he probably doesn't want to hear that. He doesn't want anybody to feel bad for him. He doesn't want to hear the sympathy thing because
No way that just happened.
to be fine. He's still doing a radio show here. He's still going to be making the same amount of money. He wasn't fired yesterday, so he probably doesn't want to hear that stuff. But that's all I could think about because, I mean, there's very few people who probably really, truly understand all of that, what that, and to grow up in this station, to be a producer, to have all of that, to get that seat, and then it just ripped away from you, in a matter of months. So, I mean, I felt horrible yesterday, and it affected me. So, but I think that he'll continue because he's a pro, and if you heard him yesterday in the open, I mean, he wasn't going to go after Mike. I wanted him to. I wanted him to. I wanted him to be honest. I did. I wanted him to say, this sucks. Not that he had to go after Mike or screw you or anything like that. But I wanted him to show a little bit of emotion in the sense of this really, really sucks.
But you have to remember that they had just come out of a meeting with our new market manager, with our program director, and
I understand
a guy that's the head of talent for the company.
Right, but
and they're basically being told, look, this is what's happening. This is how you need to handle this. This is the way you should go on the air and be nice about it. Wait a minute. Why should I be nice about what the hell's happening to us?
Yeah, I know. I mean, that's a tough ask, man. I mean, you basically rip someone's guts out and hand it to them, and then tell them to go and be nice about it. But they did.
I mean,
I don't know. I mean,
they also, in some ways, shape or form, probably could have said, "Well, this is not what my contract calls for," and not accept the move. They could have done that as well if they really wanted to. But again, you're asking people to, you're telling people, don't take your paycheck, don't do this, don't do that, or don't use what other opportunities that still may come out of this and benefit you somewhere else down the line. So this is the way we're going to keep it because we don't want to have to remove, the diversity crew here at the station.
Yeah, well, listen, I'm rooting for them, and I hope they do the best job possible, and they stick to it, and it isn't something that affects them forever. It's going to be very, very tough in the short term, though. There's no doubt about it, especially if Mike's doing shows from here. It's going to be very, very awkward. I mean, there's just no other way to say it. It's going to be very weird and very awkward for an amount of time that...
Oh, he's got to come here, I would imagine. I was told that he's working here. Yeah, well, they got a studio named after him, for God's sake. I mean, would you walk in there and go work in that studio?
That's right. Here I am. We're back. Okay. From the studios of me. He's just going to laugh for 15 minutes. That's going to be his open. We're back. Oh,
I'm sure in his life that people will probably tell him how much he's missed, how,
I'm the best there is.
You're the best there is.
I'm loaded,
You're
okay?
You're loaded. Everything's
I was terrific from day one.
I love that call. That when that guy called up and basically said he was terrible on TV and he responded with that, those are my favorite Francesa clips of all time. I was terrific from day one, okay?
That's exactly right. Just believe in yourself.
Yep. Here it is, breaking fan news.
What do we have?
Mike Francesa returning to WFAN as part of multi-platform partnership. We knew that this was happening. It is now official. We have put out a press release. Entercom, Mike Francesa, and CAA Sports on Friday announced the partnership spanning broadcast radio, digital, and live events. The partnership includes the debut of Mike's On Radio Show, featuring Mike Francesa.
The debut?
Yeah, well, yeah.
Somebody wrote the Dave. Somebody actually wrote maybe the re-debut.
The re-debut, the resetting of Mike's On, featuring Mike Francesa, airing Monday through Friday from 3 to 6:30, beginning on Tuesday.
Thank you very much.
Okay. The partnership also includes the launch of a mobile app and online destination by the same name, Mike's On, which will feature exclusive live video streaming.
Put my mic on!
Of Francesa's weekday radio program on WFAN. All right, we got some quotes in here. We're proud of the terrific lineup on WFAN. Bring Mike back into the mix.
Here I come to save the day. I'm loaded, okay?
Okay. We got some Mike quotes here.
All right.
After exploring several options, this partnership with CAA Sports and Entercom was a perfect fit. Okay. This partnership allows me the chance to return to WFAN, all loyal listeners. I love my audience, okay? As well as significant opportunities, including the app and live events that are completely new, okay?
What are the live events?
Yeah.
He's also going to be doing his Sunday show is exclusively on the app.
Oh, okay. Yeah, it's revolutionary. I look forward to working with both companies on making this a very successful venture. Okay.
And the 7-year goodbye tour starts Tuesday.
Yeah. So
you know what? You annoy me. Goodbye.
Goodbye. There's a lot of other stuff on this. I'm not going to read the whole thing. It's a very extensive press release. I don't think. Is there anything else on there I'm missing there?
The app will be free to download, but will offer subscription options for fans who want to hear additional content.
Like what kind of additional content?
It's just him going.
Eddie, just put your folder together. Put it on the app.
Oh man. Oh look, there's a. You see this? There's a Mike's On. What is this website? I just lost
Network.
it.
Mike's On Network.
There it is. The Mike's On Network.
You could sign up now to start getting emails.
Yeah, you can. Be the first one to know when Mike's on.
Al, I think you should sign up for it. And this way you keep us up to date on any new things that are happening.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So there it is. Official. They made sure, they could have waited till 10.
Yeah, but I'm glad they did it while we were on.
But they did it while we were on the air. That's good. I'm glad. I'm glad they did that.
Upstairs thinking, yes.
Right, exactly. No, I'm very, very happy about that.
Here's a clip from something.
Okay. Do I want to make the lineup better? Yes, I do. I mean, I don't think anybody's going to dispute that. It's like a baseball team. They tried to improve the fan, and let's just say the fan's been in a little bit of a slump. I hope to be able to help break that.
Wow.
Where is that?
That was a 10-10 wins interview.
Yeah. Who would have thought Mike would be back before Jesus?
Jesus God.
A little bit of a slump.
Has ever been?
It's 3.5 months. Oh my God.
It's like a lineup.
It's like a baseball team.
Where's he batting in the lineup?
Yeah, bat and clean up.
Why don't you put the most important person at like the second second these days, like Cespedes and Judge?
Yeah, I don't know. I can't believe that. Well, actually, I can believe that. What am I talking about? I can believe just about anything.
You can.
Yeah, if he went on there, it's like, I hate Boomer, I hate Gio, I hate Joe, I hate Evan, I hate everybody. Everybody screw you and eat this. I wouldn't be surprised at that either. Whew. All right. Well, Tuesday.
Oh, boy.
May 1st. It's been in a little bit of a slump. Okay. All right. So he went on 10. Why didn't he come on here? Should have come on here.
I don't know.
He went on 10-10 wins.
He kind of has been on here the last 3 days, hasn't he?
Yeah, I guess so, in some way, shape, or form. Would you have allowed that if you wanted to come on?
You know what? Let's let him start his show the way he wants to start his show. I don't think he needs to come here to advertise. I think we're doing enough of that for him. Yeah, which is good. We're promoting other shows on this show now, which was what we should always do and what we have been doing.
Yeah, so there's a general manager answer here you're giving me.
No. I think that he needs to come on and do his thing on Tuesday the way that he wants to do it, and the rest of us then can listen and figure out whether or not he's doing it the right way.
I can't believe he's taking shots already. On 10-10 wins.
I never thought I would be back. I really never thought I would be back at Fan for a minute. It's a very unusual thing that happened.
It's official. Mike Francesa is returning to our sister station, WFAN. This morning, he spoke to 10-10 Wins in his first live interview since the speculation broke.
It's a partnership between CAA, myself, and Intercom that brings me back. This Mike's On app that we're building, which is going to be state-of-the-art, and it will debut this summer. The best way to promote it and to really coordinate the different platforms of media was to come back and do a regular show. When that got into the conversation, that's when Intercom, which is a partner, said, you have to come back to the Fan. And I was like, we talked about it. I was a little leery at first. And then we agreed that that was the only thing that made sense.
Francesa says he also missed his loyal listeners.
To come back to the Fan, I have to admit it'll be a lot of fun. It really is. I understand that some people have taken it as somehow it's insane or crazy. I did miss the fans a lot, and I missed the format and the vehicle a lot. It's what I do. It's what I like to do. And everywhere I went, the fans all urged me to come back. I love my relationship with the fans. I think I have as good a relationship with the audience as anyone's ever had. It will be the show I did for 30 years and did very successfully for 30 years, so that's what people will see on Tuesday.
The current afternoon team will move it to an earlier time slot so no one is out of a job as a result, and Francesa says he'll be back 3 to 6:30 starting Tuesday.
But we're live and in living color
From where?
the Mike Francesa studios here in Hudson, high above Hudson Street, and beautiful. Of course, we'll be here till 2 o'clock. Don't get used to it. When the afternoon drive will come your way, Maggie, Bart, and Chris. Look at Dove. He's like shaking his head. Well, hey, 2 o'clock, we hardly knew you. Dove Kramer, Ernie Acosta on the other side of the glass.
I do believe, Joe.
What do you believe?
That the last 4 months have been so special.
Are you getting nostalgic about 2 o'clock?
I am. I think we need a tribute. I think we
Think
need
so?
to have Ernie pull some best of clips from the 1 o'clock hour. I think we need to go all emotional about it. I got to give Giannotti credit.
And I am broken up.
This is why G deserves the credit. Because,
what did he do?
You know, obviously the last 24 hours have been quite chaotic. And I'll admit, when that first story came out 2 nights ago from Andrew Marchand, no offense to him,
right?
My first reaction is, it's a bunch of crap. That's not true.
When you heard Neil Best, you knew it was good, right?
Well, yes. I mean, when
Neil Best has it, you know it's probably happening.
And that's not that Neil's a better reporter than Andrew.
No,
it's just that
he's very tight.
Yeah,
Right,
and he's
right.
basically repeating what Mike says.
Right.
So Andrew had the story. Good job out of him. But Giannotti said it this morning. There's a lot of people around here that may be confused. Maybe they're even upset. The happiest guy in this building is Joe Beningo. And it's not even close. Not that I'm broken up, by the way. I'm not broken up
You can't be too distraught here. I mean, come on.
You know what I am? I looked at it this way.
All right.
I really did enjoy the 1 o'clock hour.
No,
I mean
know.
that.
I understand.
I enjoy it because especially when there's so much going on,
Right,
it's cool
right.
to have more time to talk to the people
right.
and have more fun.
Right.
But yesterday when I got home, I was running around the backyard with my son, and now I have an extra hour doing that. So how the hell can I complain?
And let me tell you something. There's a big difference. Just noticing, the traffic going back. 2 o'clock, 1 o'clock is a pretty big difference.
Oh, no doubt about it.
There is no doubt about it.
But here's what bothers me. I want some answers.
Are you
'cause
bothered?
I'm
What are you bothered about?
I love Mike. I'm excited
Right,
that Mike may be
right,
coming back or he's
right,
coming back. However the
right,
hell we're supposed to
right.
word it, I don't know.
Yeah, right. Well, it sounds like he's coming back.
Great. Love Mike. Legend. And I said this to Mike. You said this to Mike many, many times, off air, on air. I said to Mike, you're not ready to leave. That's not true, kid. You don't know what you're talking about.
You're kidding me.
Well, first of all, Mike, I was right and you were wrong. That's number one.
Right.
I can't wait to tell him that.
Right.
It's just 4 months it took. He
Yeah.
could have done this 6 months ago.
I wonder what the over-under on the comeback was.
I would have.
I hope you bet the under.
Seriously. And now, Mike will never retire. Okay, this is it.
Yeah, no, I
he
agree.
will die.
I agree.
In the chair.
I will be gone before Mike now.
Oh, there's no doubt.
I am totally confident about that.
No doubt about that.
And there'll be no victory tour.
But I'm very curious to hear. Not that Mike has to explain anything to me. No victory tour. There
Unless
should
we
be,
can
though.
sell it. If we can sell it, there'll be one.
No, I'm not selling nothing. I want no part of it. Anyway, go ahead.
Not that Mike has to explain anything to me or you or
Right.
I mean, he does have to explain to a few people, but not us. What the heck happened? I thought no more FAN. I'm done.
Yeah, well.
I don't want to do this anymore. I knew he wanted to do it.
Sure.
Come on, it was obvious. I knew it. You knew. We knew it. But I am curious to find out what happened. I think I'm going to call him. Should I
You
call?
gonna call him?
Do you think he'll pick up?
Oh, yeah, he'll talk to you. He loves you. I know. Why wouldn't he talk to you?
Mike, get ready. I'm calling today because I'm curious.
He loves you.
I'm going to
Come
welcome
on.
him back. I'm very excited. But
I think it's very simple. I mean, to me, I just think that Mike, he can't live without this. I mean, to me, that's very easy.
But
that's what I think. I mean, I think Mike he has, we all know the ego he has. Everybody knows that.
But is he going to say that?
Well, he's not going to say
Well,
that.
but that's the thing. What's he going to say?
I don't think he's going to say that.
He can't say that he's
That
coming
I
back.
can't live without this.
Well,
that,
why not? That's a great answer if he says that.
You think he's saying that?
I'm not saying
He has said that.
Has he?
When has he said
In
that?
other words, sure.
Did he?
What?
He misses being on the air and talking with the listeners.
All right. Well, then there you
Well,
go.
but
So then maybe he will say it.
No, but I want to hear him say, look, okay, here's what I want to say here. I was wrong, okay? I thought I could leave, okay, but I was gone.
Right,
I missed
right,
it. I miss
right.
you, and I miss Joe, and I miss
Right,
Evan. I
right.
want that
I'm
specifically,
not going to
too.
really see him too often.
We're
I mean,
never going to see him.
I mean, when am I going to see
He missed
him?
you and Joe to come back.
No, I want him to
no,
say that.
No, I don't think he's saying that.
But
no,
I think
he didn't miss us.
I think he believes it deep down. But that would be cool. But I really hope it's not a vendetta. That's ridiculous if that's the reason. He's
Yeah.
coming back for a vendetta?
Yeah, I don't buy
That's
that.
not a reason to work.
Yeah, I don't buy
The reason to work is money
I don't buy
and because you love it.
Right.
Those are good reasons.
Right.
But here's the other thing that kind of annoyed me. I'm reading the last 2 days how everybody at the Fan hates Mike or something like that.
Where did that come from?
I've never gotten a phone call. So if anybody wants to ask
Where'd
me
that
what
come
I
from?
think of Mike, you're wrong. I love Mike.
Where did that come from?
I don't know.
Look, I
they
mean,
don't care about us. We don't count.
Well, no,
okay.
well, I mean,
That's fine.
look, I get that to some degree. I understand. You're not wrong on what you're saying. But I mean, this idea that everybody hates him. I mean, where's that coming from?
There may be.
I mean, I'm sure there's people here that don't like him. I'm not saying that.
The way this went down is kind of weird.
Well, I mean, you know,
I'd be ticked off on the afternoon drive.
It was a little awkward. I do kind of feel sorry for those guys.
Sure.
I do feel for them.
Absolutely.
You know? But, you know, I mean, look, it could have been done better, but, you know, it's done. I mean, what else can I say?
Yeah.
Let's do this here. We're not going to have a chance to do it again, so let's just get it on the board, and we'll get it out of the way. I know a lot of people don't necessarily know what's going on with it, so I get that. People around the country could care less, half of them, I get that. This is a national sports talk show, I understand. So, I mean, there are, you know, I got Ryan in South Carolina right now wants to break down Westbrook. So there's other things to do today, but, you know, I have to get into this to a degree a little bit, and so I will spend a couple minutes on it, and away we go. There are lessons to be learned here if you're a talk show host or anybody in the world who is leading a high-profile position, because if anybody didn't see today, and I don't know how you missed it, if anybody didn't see today, my old radio partner is going to return, so I can't play those refugee songs anymore, going to return to his former stomping grounds and afternoon drive at WFAN. This is after a 3.5, 4 month retirement scenario, and Mike will return and do I don't know when, but do his show soon, I would think, tomorrow. I mean, sometime along the way, Mike will anchor that afternoon positions again over at WFAN in New York, and so he will return after retiring on December 15th. And there are a lot of lessons to learn here from a standpoint of who did what and who did this and everything else. Let's start with the Mike aspect of it. And I tell you what I learned. Two things. And, you know, I'm almost the same age as Mike, 5 or 6 years younger, but I learned the same thing. Two things. A, when you retire, and listen, I learned it from Mike. When you retire, just retire. Just, you know, you finished, you say goodbye on a Friday afternoon, give the quarters a chance, and move on. You can't do a long goodbye, because if you do a long goodbye, it gets a little tedious, number one. And number two, if you do that and then all of a sudden you change your mind in 5 or 6 months, you're going to look like a horse's fanny. So when it's time to go, just sense it in your own gut and go. That's the first thing. Second thing is, make sure make sure that when you do retire, you got something to do. I think that's one lesson. Retire when you know that everybody at home is settled, and retire when you know you're going to retire, and do it quickly. That's the first thing. Second thing is, the radio station FAN did an absolutely horrendous job. They knew for a year that there was going to be a huge hole in the afternoon they would have to fill. They knew this for 18 months. Now, I think they hoped beyond hope that Mike would not retire and stay. Now, as it turns out, he really didn't retire. He's back. But they didn't know we didn't know this until a couple of days ago. We knew for a long, long period of time that there was going to be a hole to fill. And you get the idea, they just did not figure out what they wanted to do in that spot nearly well enough. Yes, they were killed in the morning. Their morning guy got in trouble, so they had to worry about 2 spots. I understand. But they did not do a good job. You can't put 3 people in an afternoon drive program. That is a disaster. You just can't have 3 people talking at the same time. You can't do interviews that way. You can't have the question around the horn. That never works with the NCAA. When I do it on Selection Sunday, it just doesn't work. 1, 2 people at the most an afternoon drive. That's the first thing. Second thing is, you can't check all the boxes. You have to find people, and it's not easy. And that was an impossible replacement, because you're talking about a show that had been established, and then Mike, who had been there for 10 years by himself, 30 years overall. So it's not easy. I'm not trying to say that these hosts grow on trees, but you have to be in a situation where you have a little better idea than throwing 3 people on there who have never worked together, one who's not a baseball guy. It's very, 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 very difficult. And FAN did a horrendous job. There's no other way around it. Chris Olivero did a terrible job with it. My old boss, Mark Chernoff, awful. You can't deny it. If you bring in 3 guys in to do a show for 4 hours every day, and you bring them in on December 15th, and then you pull the plug on them on April 15th, that's a problem. All right. Now that is and again, there was a lot of other problems than just taking so long to find the replacements. 3 people, a non-baseball guy. You can't do nothing. You have to do baseball in New York City. You just have to. You have to do baseball. You can't put a guy in there who doesn't know anything about baseball. You just can't do it. Simple. So they were put in an impossible situation, replacing a legend, and FAN did him absolutely no favors by setting him up in a lot of ways to fail. Now, having said that, you cannot blame Chernoff or his superior of making a change. That show got off to a horrendous start, and they do this in all sorts of professions. Okay, when TV shows don't get ratings in the first 6 episodes, out it goes. Okay, this is the way the world works. I'm sorry. You don't get ratings in a big market when you're making a lot of money. They're going to pull the plug on you. I mean, whether it's fair, whatever the case might be, and and it's not their fault necessarily. They didn't get any ratings. I don't know what else to tell you. It's different from the days that Mike and I began, so I understand the degree of difficulty right now is harder than it would have been, say, 30 years ago, because 30 years ago we didn't have a lot of competition. It was just the 2 of us, and we found our niche. Harder now, I get it, but I could also make the argument that the radio station is set up for success. They got a football team, a baseball team, it's well established, and you should be able to beat the radio station across the street that does a lot of national programming. You should be able to beat that in the afternoon when you got the Yankees at 6 o'clock every night. And you got the Jets and you got Giants football. You should be able to win there. So there comes a point where if you're the bosses and the old guy who left now wants to come back, and you see the landscape with what you have put together poorly, in the afternoon you say to yourself, you know what? I can get him 60 cents in a dollar to boot, because I'm sure they're going to not pay Mike what he was getting paid. I can understand why, in fact, they made that decision. So I don't buy the idea, and it's not like anybody got forced out. Everybody's got contracts, long-term, guaranteed. So we didn't throw 20 people out on the street. So that the idea now that a lot of the writers want to make you think. Now, again, that's a tremendous psychological blow. Tremendous for their new afternoon show. I mean, they went from drive time to 1 to 3. That's painful, but they are there they got a 2-year guaranteed contract, making good money. They can find a niche, maybe get a little better, less hours, 2 instead of 4. So I mean, it's just not Don Chaney getting thrown out on a cab ride after Madison Square Garden with Dolan 20 years ago. It's not the end of the world. And the radio station over there, their job is to get ratings. That's their job. Get revenue and ratings. And the new team, 3.5 months is not a very long time. I'll buy that. But the new team wasn't doing either one of them. And I don't know if that would have been improved in a foreseeable future. It's into the baseball season. After the Jets and Giants drafts are over, it's all Mets and Yankees. And you got a third of the group there doesn't know anything about baseball. That's tricky. The other thing that you learn, if you leave, it's not that easy. They're not going to pay you the same amount of money that they paid you going somewhere else. Mike left. 3 months, couldn't do much. It's a different landscape. There's not a ton of radio stations out there. The offers are not going to be the same. There's nothing else to say. When you leave a long-time radio station and they're paying you big money to go somewhere else, to expect that same company to pay you the same amount of money 30 years after you first signed with the first station, the money is not going to be there. On March 28th, when the MLB network, I've explained this. Mike and I came together, we did an hour, we did the over-unders. When they threw that Twitter question up at the end of the show and said, is there a better chance that Mike goes back to FAN before a Marlon Ray World Series? And I joked around, and it was a joke, and I threw it out there, and a lot of people took it the wrong way. And I can understand sensitive feelings, so maybe, I couldn't resist. That's what I've always done anyway. So I said, before you know it, when you left the WFAN. Mike grabs it. We had some laughs with it. People really took large offense to it and everything else. I get that. You cannot respond as some of the hosts did at FAN. The best response to that, if you really were offended and you thought I was out of line, ignore it. If you're one of the afternoon hosts with text messages to the both of us with a blank my you-know-what, that you can't do. That you can't do. You're 45 years of age. Let it roll off your back. That's completely out of line. I didn't care. It didn't bother me. I said my response was, oh, come on, stop. Jeez, take it easy. Mike didn't feel that way.
Mike Francesa's in the news. The biggest expert on Mike Francesa has to be Christopher Mad Dog Russo. Chris, it's Michael, Don, and Peter. How are you today?
Always a pleasure, gentlemen. What are we going to discuss here in this busy afternoon?
Let's start with your former partner. Were you surprised by this move?
Oh, absolutely. I don't know how you couldn't be. I was shocked. Yeah, I really was. I didn't see this coming at all. I was with Mike on March 28th on that infamous MLB Network day where, in fact, he said, we had some laughs at FAN's expense and we got all bent out of shape. But I did know, I sensed it that day that he was dying to work. We didn't really get into what he had in store, but I knew he was itching to get on the air in some capacity, in some way. So I knew he wanted to do something, but if you would have asked me on March 28th, the day before the regular season opened, that 3 weeks later he would go back to FAN, I would not have expected that. So I'm surprised where he ended up, but I'm not surprised he's back in the air and doing something. We're down the road here.
Now, Chris, you know him very well. You worked together for a long time. Do you think he looks at this as a challenge to get the listeners back, and that he's just going to, or does he think he's just going to jump right back in like he never left?
No, a challenge. I think Mike will look to beat you guys. Everybody has read. You'd have to be in a cave if you work in the media or a sports fan in New York not to know about our little battle between the Michael K program and FAN in the afternoon. That includes me, and don't think I don't pay attention to it, despite the fact that I'm Sirius satellite radio. And so I would think that I read the Michael quote today, bring it on, so we have some fun with the two of you. I will monitor it from the sidelines, but I do think that that will be an interesting battle now, and I think that is, I think Mike will be motivated there. I know Mr. K and Mr. LeGreca and Peter here will be motivated too, so we should have basically a Jay Leno, David Letterman war. Leno had a big advantage because obviously he had better affiliates than Letterman did, and he always beat him. They got a stronger station, signal-wise and history and all that, but you guys have just won your first huge book. That will be fascinating to chronicle, Mr. K. And I want to, by the way, I want an update with you, O'Neill, and Cohen doing the games. I want updates.
All right, so Chris, I have a couple of things to ask you about Mike, but I do have to hold you to one thing. You sort of blew past the moment on High Heat on the MLB Network when you guys sort of busted the fans' chops. I am not a Francesa guy, but since I've done this show and gotten to know you, I'm a big Mad Dog guy. I thought you guys were unfair. Chris Carlin is such a good guy, and I don't know Maggie well. Bart is a tremendous guy. It just seemed it was a little cheap of you guys to take a shot. Do you not think so?
I totally think it was blown out of proportion. My gosh, we were having a laugh. Nobody was mentioned by name. My goodness gracious. And that wasn't even my idea, not looking to blame MLB Network. That was a Twitter segment. And they put the call, they tweeted a question, what is going to happen first? As it turns out, it was going to be Mike. Mike returned to FAN or a Marlon Ray World Series. What was going to happen first? And I said Mike because before you know it, there's not going to be anybody left at WFAN. I mean, my goodness, have a thick skin. My God. How many times, Michael will realize this, how many times did we get killed back in 1989? They can't do a show together. Daffy Duck, nobody can understand them, break them up. What a dopey idea. Sports all the time. You let it roll off your back, you can't get that wrapped up in it.
Yeah, but
shocked.
No, and that's
shocked
fair, Chris. That's fair, Chris, but it's not Raceman, it's not Mushnick, it's not Best. It's somebody that Chris probably felt were two friends of his And he probably thought he wanted to get a little bit more support at a very difficult time, trying to transition from a legend into a show where he's trying to work chemistry with two people he didn't even know. So it's one thing if Raceman rips you, yeah, that's fine. But he probably felt he was getting ripped by a couple of friends.
Fair point. Now, did I rip Carlin by name?
No, but everybody knew who you were talking about.
No, I was talking about Bart Scott.
Yeah, you don't like Bart.
That's awful. That's the worst. You can't. Let's not even go there.
Is it true, Chris, that Carlin sent you a little bit of a nasty
that is
text?
Accurate. That is accurate.
Did you reply? How did you react to that?
I said, "Oh, stop." He did it on the train. I knew he was annoyed. I said, "Really? This is how you're going to respond to this? For goodness gracious." That is accurate. Now, I did not bring that up on the air because Carlin must have told a couple of people at FAN, look what I did with the FAN guys, because then Raceman had it yesterday at 1:57 in the afternoon. And then I echoed that at 4 o'clock. I just mentioned the fact that Chris was annoyed. And I can understand why he's annoyed. But hold on now. Let it roll. Is it that big? You're telling me Mr. K, Mr. McGregor doesn't like it, Peter doesn't either. You thought that was that big a deal?
Well,
that thing on MLB Network?
I didn't think it was great. I mean, because they're fighting big odds. I mean, they're taking over for a spot that guys built into prime real estate.
It was the laughter. It was the tone of like, oh, there's not going to be anyone, like they're all gone. Now, if you were taking a shot at Carton, I'm all for that. No one deserves to be laughed at more. But for Chris, I don't know, man. He uprooted his family. We all know he's such a good dude that I think some of us took it more personally. That's all.
Yeah, I don't know, boy. I tell you.
Now, do you think that text?
It got to be. If that is going to bother you doing that show, you should never have done it.
Do you believe that text that we're talking about, which was allegedly was also sent to Francesa, is that what Francesa's talking about? Certain people saying I couldn't come back?
I don't really know. I mean, I would think that probably bothered Mike. It bothered me. I can't say. I don't know that. I have not talked to him, so I don't specifically know where. I read the same quote you did. I don't know where that is coming from. I have not spoken to Carlin since. I'm sure he's annoyed at me. I'm sure Carlin told a couple of his buddies, and his buddies must have told Raceman, and that's how he had it. I didn't mention it for the last month. I mentioned it yesterday afternoon. I didn't think. Now, listen, if you think that I was out of line, I would respect you three guys' opinions on that. The MLB Network people didn't think it was that big a deal.
We gave him the opportunity to come on and say it to your face, and Dog wouldn't get near Bart. Yeah. No one will say it to Bart's face. So you can say whatever you want. We're not hearing about you. And honestly, at the end of the day, you are talking about us. This is the first time we're talking about you. You have been talking about us this whole time. So if you need us to be relevant, or if you need us to try to get your name in the paper, that's all you need to know. Congrats to you.
And for me personally, having the relationship with them as I have over the years, and Dog, who I for a long time considered a friend, even worked over there a little bit, it's disappointing on a lot of levels because he, first of all, somehow thought that that knocking my partners was not knocking me. Well, that's wrong. I'm sorry. We're a team. And secondly, as Maggie said, come on over. Bart will have a few laughs with you.
We tried to make it fun.
And at the Super Bowl, wouldn't do it. And then that same day went on the radio show in Boston and tore us apart again. And said it's not good. Would anybody out there take exception if someone was on national television joking about you potentially losing your job? Would you take exception to that? I mean, ask yourself that question. So, yeah, I took exception to it. And I chose to try to convey to both of them my feelings at the time, privately, and Chris opted to make it public. And, okay.
Because he needs to.
And
nobody's listening.
And Chris wouldn't speak about it. As far as Mike and I are concerned, Mike's here. It's great for the station, and I'm sure we'll talk at some point. So, we've had so many arguments over the years from when I was working for them that I'm not remotely worried about that. That, we'll get things as ironed out as they need to be working forward. Because as much as we can point to everything that we have the last couple of days, we're not going to lie. It's awkward. But, hey, it is what it is.
Life.
And we are so ridiculously lucky to be here in the first place. And Maggie's right. I even hate the fact that we're talking about Chris because we're giving him the publicity.
Exactly what he wants. Yeah.
But we're not going to duck it.
I know. That's the thing. We can't duck it. And,
I tried to talk to Chris like a direct individual, and he chose not to do that. In fact, when I asked him to come on the show at the Super Bowl, I said it to him directly. Oh, we'll see. I'll see about it. And then had somebody get back to me to say he's not coming on the show. Chris and I, who have been friendly for 15 years, this is what he is. He jokes with you to your face, and then he decides, I'll just say whatever I'm going to say, and when you're not looking, yeah. I'll fire away, and then I'll cut and run. And that's what he is.
That's why I almost got choked out at the Super Bowl.
It's true. David Deal. He can dish it out, but he can't take it. That's definitely true. And he is a phony because he came to Sports Illustrated. I interviewed him, and he was like, oh, Maggie, she's great. He goes on High Heat. She's so great. She's this, she's that. And then as soon as we get the job, he starts ripping me and ripping you guys. Yeah. Please.
It is a phony. It is a complete
So for all the
phony.
Huge dog fans out there, just know the real person, not the host, the real person is a total fraud.
Yeah.
So
that's what it is.
Come right out of a comic book, punk.
Guys, we don't want to spend a lot more time on it. I think that we have pretty much said what there is to say about it. Mm-hmm. I'm sure there'll be another response because, we're looking for more 10 newspaper articles out of it. But whatever.
Mike's on. He's ready to go. On the Fan. New York Sports Radio. Mike's on. Mike's on. He'll get you the sports any way that he can. It's Mike Francesa on the Fan. Sports Radio 66 and 101.9 FM. WFAN.
From the studios of WFAN, and yeah, it has my name on it, but I'm not going to keep saying that. This is Mike Francesa, and it is Mike's On. Good afternoon, everybody. It's nice to be back. A little surprising to be back, and in case you might have seen a little notice about it in the last couple of days, I am back. We'll get into all that. I'm sure some of you, as you call and go through the day, might have a couple of questions. If you do, we'll answer them then. I'm not going to sit here and give you a litany of what happened, because some of it is none of your business, and the rest of it, well, I'll tell you it as we go along. But I want to thank everyone for all the kind thoughts and wishes that came from every corner. It was overwhelming, all the nice messages and warm greetings that were sent my way, so I thank everybody for that. And it's time to get down and do some sports, which I haven't had a chance to do in a long time. It was December 15th the last time I was here. So a lot has gone on since then. We're not going to get to all of it in one day, but we got a lot going on right now. I was fascinated by the Yankees and the Astros last night. First of all, I don't like the Astros very much, but the Yankees went in there having won 9 straight. They were going to be, after last night, 4 games into this 13-game schedule that was going to be the one that was the true test. After the ups and downs of the early season, the rotten weather, and boy, do we have rotten weather. I mean, don't get me started on that, because this is the first nice day we've had ever this spring, and it's the first day I have to be here. So God's playing a little trick on me as far as that, because it's 80 and sunny, and I waited for 2 months to have an 80-degree day to play golf. But hey, that's the way it goes. But the 4 games into this part of the schedule, early season, you had the weather to deal with, you had the injuries, you had little inconsistency here and there. They weren't playing well, and then all of a sudden they got hot, and then here came the Angels, and that was fast order. And then, of course, this 4-game stop in Houston, which started with a loss last night as Charlie Morton continued his mastery, and that's the only word for it, over the Yankees as he did last night. I mean, the Astros right now, the way they pitch, I don't love their bullpen, but the way they pitch, especially in the starting rotation, with Verlander doing what he's doing, and I wondered if he would do that, in the regular season after being so brilliant in the postseason last year, but right now he is doing it. They're all doing it as far as the rotation goes. Their pitching numbers are extraordinary. Their offense is terrific. So right now you have to call them the class. But the Yankees,
the Red Sox will have something, and the Indians will have something to say about that as the weeks and months go on. We have a chance to have a lot of fun here this year, especially with the Yankees and the Red Sox. But right now, 4 games into this 13 games, which will conclude with the Indians and then the Red Sox coming to town. But first 3 more games with the Astros after last night's loss. I was driving today. I heard people complaining about who was in the lineup and who wasn't. Come on, it is the last day of April. I mean, calm down about stuff like that. Let people get a day off here and there. It's a long season, and already the Yanks have been backed up because of the many rainouts, because they were dumb enough to start the schedule early and run into this incredibly bad weather. So we got a lot to get to. We got the Yankees. We got to get some stuff with the Mets, and the Mets have had a good start. I mean, they're often playing well. They got some holes, but right now you got to be happy with what's going on so far. And you also have to be happy with the fact that Washington is not nearly Washington, and neither Atlanta or the Phillies are ready to win on a big level. They're improved. I think the Phillies would be much improved this year, but neither one's ready to go to the playoffs, and Washington's sure struggling with their issues and their injuries, so that gives the Mets a chance. Cespedes doesn't seem like he's too badly hurt right now. It looked like it's okay, so I think that, and that's obviously a very big positive. You'll see him, I think, get torrid when the weather heats up as it is going to do this week. There's a lot of other things to get to. We got coaches still to name with some teams here in town. We'll get to that. And, of course, the draft. So you have A-Rod and Eli and Mike McCagnon and Jay Wright for the show. So we got a lot to get to. As I said, rather than sit here and tell you the long story about how I wound up back here, I know you'll have questions. We'll get to it that way. I missed everybody. I miss doing this. That's part of this. There's no question. There's another part of it, which I'll get to. There's something that we've been working on, and I'll tell you about, that I'm very excited about, which is a very big part of it, and really what brought me back more than anything else. But I'll get to all that right after this word from my good buddies at Casa Amigos, the tequila, who want to tell everybody that we are celebrating my return to fan with George Clooney and Randy Gerber's Casamigos Tequila. And Leon Slater, too, is a good friend of mine up in Westchester. Truly the best tasting, smoothest tequila on the market. Absolutely no burn. So for those who have welcomed me back to fan, raise a glass of Casamigos and cheer. Or for those who maybe didn't want to hear from me again, well, you know what? Have a shot at the Casamigos anyway. And welcome to our house of friends. Casamigos Tequila